which is I want to talk about Bernie Sanders versus John Kasich at the Democrat convention last night. I think when you listen to these two clips, what you really see is I kind of label these characters a little bit. I think that Bernie Sanders is just militant. He's just a militant leftist, and that's what he'll always be, and that's what he wants. He, as many leftists do, he promises free things and great things, but it's always just give me all the money and all the power and all the control over every aspect of your life, and I'll make your life good. That is the argument of Bernie Sanders. Militant is all get out. John Kasich wins the award last night for the most uninformed, confused, befuddled, it's hard to even think of a word, disconnected from reality human being you can possibly imagine. But I sent Matt the wonderful clips. I want to start with Bernie Sanders and tell you what he had to say last night at the Democrat convention.
Good evening. Our great nation is now living in an unprecedented moment. We're facing the worst public health crisis in 100 years and the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression. We are confronting systemic racism and the enormous threat to our planet of climate change. Let me take this opportunity to say a word to the millions of people who supported my campaign this year and in 2016. My friends, thank you for your trust, your support, and the love you showed Jane, me, and our family. Together, we have moved this country in a bold new direction, showing that all of us, Black and white, Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, native-born and immigrant, yearn for a nation based on the principles of justice, love, and compassion. Our campaign ended several months ago, but our movement continues and is getting stronger every day. Many of the ideas we fought for that just a few years ago were considered radical are now mainstream. Together, we must build a nation that is more equitable, more compassionate, and more inclusive. I know that Joe Biden will begin that fight on day one. Let me offer you just a few examples of how Joe will move us forward. Joe supports raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. This will give 40 million workers a pay raise and push the wage scale up for everyone else. Joe will also make it easier for workers to join unions, create 12 weeks of paid family leave, fund universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, and make child care affordable for millions of families.
Okay, that would be Bernie Sanders. Listen to what he's telling you. He is saying, he's acknowledging his campaigns in 2016 and again in 2020, his campaigns are designed to push America, he says, a new direction toward radical Marxism. He acknowledges he's a socialist. He's pushing the American people toward Marxism. And he is not apologizing, and he's not saying, I guess you Americans didn't agree with my ideas. That's why I lost the primary both times. He's not saying that. He's saying, my ideas are Marxist, I'm pushing them on America, and I'm going to get Joe Biden to implement them. He's promising you Biden is going to be as radical as he is. I could spend the rest of the show just cutting down and parsing, running through and obliterating the idiocy of what you just heard from Bernie Sanders, but I want to hit other things. But understand the message from Bernie Sanders. He's a radical Marxist. He always has been. He's actually a communist, unapologetically so, has been for decades. And he's promising you, don't worry, Biden's going to do everything I wanted. Don't worry, you're going to get all this stuff that I was promising you. It's just in a different, coming from Joe Biden instead of me, Bernie Sanders. Never explains how somehow the systemic racism, which is now everywhere, according to the radical left in this country, wasn't there. We never talked about it, never heard about it, never heard complaints about it for all the 8 years of Barack Obama. Somehow this has magically just appeared because the Republicans are in control. You have to understand Bernie Sanders is a radical Marxist. He will take this country in the direction of Cuba and Venezuela. Since he couldn't convince even the Democrat base in this country to do that, he's promising, well, don't worry, Joe Biden will do it for you. The whole push toward unions, I think we've been over this in the show many times. The constitutions of communist countries and socialist countries push unions, celebrate unions, talk about the greatness of unions. They are a tool of radical Marxists. When Democrats push unions, it's because it is an implement that helps them gain and hold on to power. So it's a radically pro-union, free stuff for everybody, free pre-K, free aid for healthcare, free healthcare for everybody, of course, minimum wage going up, free stuff for paid family leave. There will just be free stuff, free stuff, free stuff. And as we went through many times when Sanders was running for office, when he says free stuff, he means he and the Democrat Party from Washington are going to force you, the American people, to pay for everybody else's free stuff. That's what they mean. So Sanders is promising a Biden presidency is going to be a radically leftist Bernie Sanders style presidency. Now let's talk about John Kasich, who is, by the way, there was a little video they had, an intro by someone. I'm sure I should know who she was, but whatever. She was doing an intro saying, look at all these people we have. We have Republicans coming to speak on behalf and in favor of Joe Biden. I want to feature just one, John Kasich, who ran for the presidency previously. He's he has an R by his name. He has attempted to say he's actually he's a Republican. But I want you to listen to what he has to say, because if Biden wins the prize for the most, if Bernie Sanders wins the prize for the most militant, John Kasich wins the prize for the most impossibly clueless. Here is John Kasich.
The stakes in this election are greater than any in modern times. Many of us have been deeply concerned about the current path we've been following for the past 4 years. It's a path that's led to division, dysfunction, irresponsibility, and growing vitriol between our citizens. Continuing to follow that path will have terrible consequences for America's soul, because we're being taken down the wrong road by a president who is pitted one against the other. He's unlike all of our best leaders before him, who worked to unite us, to bridge our differences, and lead us to a united America. I've known Joe Biden for 30 years. I know his story of profound grief that has so deeply affected his character. I know Joe is a good man, a man of faith, a unifier, someone who understands the hopes and dreams of the common man and the common woman, a man who can help us to see the humanity in each other. He knows that the path to a restored and rejuvenated America lies in respect and unity and a common purpose for everyone. And I know that Joe Biden, with his experience and his wisdom and his decency, can bring us together to help us find that better way. Joe Biden is a man for our times that call for all of us to take off our partisan hats and put our nation first for ourselves and, of course, for our children. When America chooses the right path and pulls together, like we've done so many times before, we can dream big dreams. And we can see the top of the mountain as a United States of America with a soul that is a beacon of freedom to the entire world.
Okay, apologies to any of you who supported Kasich in any election in his entire life, but that is the most flaming clueless speech that has ever been given imaginable. And let me tell you why. It is disjointed, it is disconnected, it is unaware of the reality in America, given how radically left the American Democrat Party has become. The idiocy of saying, if you just get a nicer person in, we'll all get along. We'll find united purpose. We'll find unity. We'll be the United States of America. We'll come together. This ignores the reality that the radical left in this country is trying to push America over the cliff to socialism, and one of the few leaders in our country actually standing up to say, no, actually, let's stick with the America of the founding, let's stick with freedom, let's stick with the idea of a limited government, let's stick with a sovereign nation, let's stick with a country committed to freedom and individual liberty. That's President Trump. He's practically alone arguing this. And Republicans who serve in the House and Senate, they come home and they make those speeches, and I guess some of them vote that way in Washington. But you have the radical left in this country. The Marxist mindset has taken over. Vote for Biden because he'll probably be able to bring us all together somehow. How will that be? When you say compromise, you have to get to a conclusion. Compromise on what? Compromise on, are we going to have a secure border or not? Democrats don't want a secure border, which is why they always abandon it when they have the chance. Democrats love to let people come in the country who have no legal right to be here because it's a purely evil calculation that someday those illegal aliens will become Democrat voters. So we capitulate, we find common ground. The Democrats are saying, okay, how about we only let 500,000 illegal aliens into this country every year instead of 1.5 million? You can't compromise with people who want to destroy America. You cannot compromise with people who do not want the America that is rooted in freedom, that promises freedom of speech, freedom of religion, peaceable assembly. You cannot negotiate with the left when what they want is the destruction of the idea of America. And this is why I say that was the most clueless, embarrassingly idiotic speech given I've ever heard at a convention. And this is an alleged Republican. This is a guy who never could find his political footing ever, never could find his way forward. And I gotta tell you folks, I do understand, and this is a distinction many candidates have to make, and I've heard our great Senator Ted Cruz make this point too. Of course, sometimes you compromise. You go to Congress, you're in the House or Senate, and there's a tax bill on the floor. And so you're debating a tax rate. Are we going to change the tax rate for this particular group of people or this corporate tax rate from X to Y? And so you negotiate, you get to some decision. You may have to negotiate with respect to immigration and what kind of provisions you're going to put in the new immigration laws. You can negotiate on legislative points. You can negotiate on the idea of what tax rates we're going to pay. You can't negotiate with people who are saying, as the Democrat Party of America today is saying, hi, we're here to destroy the sovereignty of the United States of America. We're here to open the borders. We're here to obliterate free markets. We're here to gather more and more power into Washington and have the regulatory state control this country. And people on the right, the conservatives, the Republicans, the Americans, are saying, wait a minute, we actually want American freedom. We want the freedom our country was founded on. So we're not negotiating with you because you're trying to take it away. We have an enemy within in this country in the form of the radical left that has now overtaken, completely controls the agenda of the Democrat Party. The agenda, the ideas of the Democrat Party have married, melded, and blended with the radical Marxist ideas pushed by the Communist Party of America in this country for decades. It is now, they find their home in the Communist Party in America today, finds their home in today's Democrat Party because they have won the battle of ideas within the Democrat Party. So Kasich talking about, hey, let's go ahead and get with Biden. He will be a compromiser. You know, we'll somehow find common ground with people who want to destroy the country. And this whole concept is saying he'll be thinking about all of us. He'll be the most childish, immature, socialist, utopian concept that somehow give more power, more tax money, more regulatory power to the government, and they'll make everything perfect. It's kind of what Chavez promised in Venezuela. It's what Castro promised in Cuba. It's what the Democrats are promising America today. We have to wake up and not buy into it. I could go on and on more about Kasich, but the idea, the whole premise of his remarks was plain lunacy. One more point on Kasich before I turn to Michelle Obama. And this actually applies to every speaker that I heard. I didn't hear every single speech, but I listened to a bunch of them. No one that I heard at least, said anything to the effect that America is a country rooted in freedom, that we are not socialists, that we reject Marxism, we reject socialism. Not one person at the Democrat National Convention could find the backbone, the clarity to say, we're the Democrat Party. We're not socialists. We're not Marxists. That's not who we are. That was a point that Bernie Sanders was making, and he's absolutely right. His ideas have steamrolled whatever allegiance the Democrat Party had to the ideas of America. So you have the left has utterly capitulated to Marxism. The Democrat Party has capitulated to Marxism. And at the Democrat convention, you could not hear one person saying, oh, that's not who we are. No, Bernie Sanders, he's out there, he's a socialist. We're not that. They won't say it because they can't, because it's where their party lives. Nor could you find any of the people at the convention, at least that I heard, condemning Antifa, condemning the Marxist Black Lives Matter movement, condemning the destruction of buildings, the destruction of property, the burning of police cars, the murder, the mayhem in the streets of America. Could not hear that condemned. Ask yourself why. These people have got to get the votes of the most radical elements of American society, so they can't say word one condemning them. They can't do it. I could say a lot more, but I want to just make the contrast in wrapping up this segment. Understand, you had, on the one hand, Bernie Sanders saying, hey, all the great ideas I ran on, America's embracing these. Yeah, we're way down the path of socialism, way down the path of free everything from the government, way down the path of government-controlled healthcare, government-controlled economy. And don't worry, Biden's right with me. That was Bernie Sanders' message. Biden's right with me. Kasich is trying to paint the picture that Biden's a super guy. He's, in fact, I don't think that was in the little clip I played, but Kasich said at one point, I don't really agree with everything. I'm not with Biden in every policy. But he's trying to sell Biden as some moderate, as some, don't worry, reasonable, fair-minded, steady guy. In fact, he said, I know some people are worried that Kasich said, people are worried Biden's going to go all socialist on us. Don't worry, he's not going to do that. No. Kasich is trying to paint the picture of Biden as a moderate, reasonable man of the people. Bernie Sanders is telling you, no. Biden is going to be a radical Marxist just like I am. So that's the question, folks. Which is it? Which is it? I'm telling you, Kasich has never been astute in understanding political ideology. He thinks that compromise is the whole point versus standing for principles. And then when you get to a decision, you have to compromise on, tax rates and individual things, but you stand with principles. He has none. He thinks compromise is a principle, but it's not. He thinks moderation is a principle, but it's not. He doesn't have principles, and so he cannot see the problem with supporting Biden, because after all, Biden seems like a nice guy. So, Bernie is selling us Biden as a socialist. Kasich is selling us Biden as a really reasonable, moderate, great guy. Can't be both ways. And the answer is Biden is going to be Bernie Sanders all over again.